so inspired by people who are selfless. You know, someone who says, even though I'm okay and my family is okay, I'm not okay until someone else who is hurting is also okay.
I also feel that it's very important to voice out
Yeah.
in order for me to reach out to you.
Right?
Yes.
If there's something that you're going through that I can help you with,
Yes.
then it's my duty and responsibility to help you. Hello to you and welcome to Visionaries. You've done well to tune in. Thank you so much for joining us. My guest today epitomizes the following saying: I am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different to my own. Allow me to introduce Nhlanhla Mokoena. She is a gender and human rights activist and a girl from Soweto. So every time there's a Sowetan with me, I get super excited. Nhlanhla, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thanks for inviting me.
You're going to have to take me back to the beginning. Which part of Soweto are you from?
I was born and raised in Meadowlands, in Ndofaya.
Ndofaya.
Yes.
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 Tell me about your upbringing, your background. Who were you with at that time?
I was raised by my maternal grandparents. Because my mom and dad stayed in White City, Soweto, and they felt that White City was not a safe place to raise children, so they felt that we should be raised by our maternal grandparents. We visited them over weekends and school holidays. It was a good upbringing, very interesting to see and watch, because my grandfather and grandmother were doing things differently, things that I was not seeing in other households. For instance, in the morning when we were supposed to go to school, we were the only kids in the neighborhood who were accompanied to school by their grandfather. So he would wake up in the morning and prepare our basins. I mean, during apartheid time, we don't have Ivascom, yes, two of us, because my older sister was in boarding school. And he would prepare the two basins for us, for me and my brother, warm water, our vaslap, soap, and then we wash ourselves, and he helps there and there, and then he goes to the kitchen and then prepares our lunch.
Where's your grandma?
Whilst he's doing this, my grandmother is sleeping. And
like
then
that.
we finish, he takes our suitcases, remember the maroon ones?
Yes,
Yeah,
the box ones.
Yeah, the box ones, and then puts our lunch, our books, and off we go. So whilst we're walking to school, it's only me and my brother with our grandfather. Very, very dark in complexion, and us very, very light in complexion. So, you know, as you're walking to school and you get to school, you are different. So there were comments, you know, on our way to school and even at school, because we are Zulus. My maiden surname is Msimango. And then now I was married to a Mokoena. But then at school, we go into a school where they speak Northern Sotho, Sepedi. And our same name is Msimango. I'm also Nhlanhla Msimango. So proper Zulu. And fun was made of us to say, you are light, so you are Madushi, or you are Busmans. What are you doing here? And also, you speak, yes, you do speak Sepedi, but your surname,
and the surname,
you are not a Mupedi. So they used to make fun of us with my brother. It would hurt, but when you get home, you tell after school, you tell granddad, and granddad, don't worry,
don't
man.
Pay them any attention.
Don't pay any attention, and you get home, you tell grandmother the same thing. Grandmother say, love yourself the way you are. You are beautiful, my children. You are intelligent. So we were happy children. But also, that also influenced why I'm a gender activist today, because I don't believe in discrimination. I don't believe in hating other people, especially, you know, on purpose. You rather do it when you don't intend to, and then you say sorry. But when you deliberately hate another person, it's not nice. Like, when a person is different from you, then you feel that, you know, you have to hate that person. Whether you are a woman or a girl, or you are a lesbian woman, or you are a gay man, because that's how discrimination comes about, because we are different people.
But also those gender roles, you know. I like that even at an early age, you were able to be exposed to something different. That it doesn't mean just because you're a woman, you're the one who must be cooking, or you're the one who must be taking the kids to school.
There was, I don't know, it was not planned or what, but there was sort of a roster. My granddad would wake up early in the morning and prepare us and then leave. And then Granny would sit at home and then clean the house and cook. Hey, there was something that used to happen. My granddad would take us to school.
Okay.
But after school, he comes back. He is so drunk.
Oh my goodness.
Drunk. But
But
not
now would
even...
you see him?
Yes, I mean 5 to 1 or so. We then look outside the window to see if Granddad is there.
He's at school?
He's at school.
Oh.
He's waiting somewhere in the
fetch you?
corner to
Oh,
fetch us.
my goodness.
But he is poop drunk, no.
Thula maboda nje.
Yes, he's like waiting like
Oh.
this, you know, hanging on to something. But Granddad is there.
Always to fetch
And
you.
you see him, and you don't see nothing wrong. Because he's your granddad. You know that granddad comes to pick us up and he's poop drunk, but it doesn't matter. He loves us. And then we give him our bags and then he walks us home.
Awabamba amabag.
Uyawathatha sihamba so estrateni.
Look,
Thina
two steps.
siyadlala but uyazi ukuthi wo ningakhosi, they are the cars
My goodness.
and then khosana and then we go home. He did that for 6 years of my primary school.
My
And then when I was older, then I was able to
cross the road on your
with my
own,
brother, and I would take
yes.
care of my brother. But it was something special and something very special to see, and also to see that, you know, there are no gender roles. A woman doesn't do that and a man does that. Both of them were on
Can share
pension.
those
And the other thing was that my uncle, who was left in the household, who was not married then, also ironed our uniform and cleaned the house and did the laundry for us, his sister's children.
What a unique experience.
So it was very unique because you go to other households, you can all see that, you know, the mom is the only person who's doing all the work. The dad is just sitting there, sometimes even shouting. Other things that used to happen in the township, that you'd hear women scream. You wake up at night with your grandparents and bayalunguza. And then
But nobody goes to help.
gogo kwenzakalani, but hayi hamba niyolala nina. Uyabona akusiyo indaba zenu. And nabo bayalunguza and then they go back to sleep. So it was also normalized even then at a very young age. It was hurting to notice, to hear, and to even see it happening around you, but you don't know what is happening, and you don't know why people are not talking about it. And because it's not happening in your home, then even when you ask questions, people don't want to talk about it, to say, why does utata so and so always beat ashaya, or amthuga on the street, or even mabalunguza phela now uyalunguza, and then you see umam so and so in her 90s running, but no one comes out to go and help her. So it's normalized. And then I grew up and then I did my social work.
Yes.
And when I was doing my 3rd year at UNISA, they said, here's a list of organizations where you can go and do your practicals. I then went on the list, looked, and, hey, and then I saw people opposing women abuse. And I said, hey, this is interesting. I must go and see.
I also think it's interesting.
Yes.
So much so that I want us to take a break. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit about that work that you did with Power.
Yes.
You know, something that sticks out for me is that even at a young age, you know, you were being shaped, you were being molded, and Nhlanhla's destiny was being paved by all the things that she was witnessing around her. Let's see what she does with that information after this. Stay with us. Hello again, and thank you so much for joining us. Let's continue our conversation with gender and human rights activist Nhlanhla Mokoena. Nhlanhla, just before the break, you spoke to us a bit about your upbringing, your background, and how it all led you to being a social worker. Divine intervention pointed you in the direction of Power. How did you start growing in that organization?
I started as an intern social worker for 2 years, and luckily for me, there was a position as soon as I graduated and I began my career. I was one of the luckiest. I didn't have to interview for a job because the 2 years that I was at Power was so successful and Power loved me. And then I was employed as a shelter social worker. And Jeanette, who's my good friend now, was my supervisor then when we were at the shelter. And we worked at the shelter for quite some time, and she was transferred to another shelter as a manager, and I was promoted to shelter manager. A few years later, I was then promoted to frontline services coordinator at Power. I think after I left Power for some time because I was a manager. After sheltering management, I left Power and worked for the Department of Social Development, worked for orphan care program of orphans of HIV and AIDS, and then I worked for the National Lotteries Board. But you know, if you are an activist, something happens to you when you go to sort of a parastatal and government and things do not work out the way you want them to work out. Bureaucracy, not caring for people. You just feel that, you know, something is not right. And I think I left power for about 4 years, and there was that frontline services position, and I went back.
Yeah.
I went back to power as the frontline services coordinator, I think for 2 years, and then the then director resigned, and I applied. And I've been at power for quite some time.
Wow.
And I'm now the executive director at power. I will soon be leaving power, and I feel that I've done my part.
My goodness.
And I've added, you know, in terms of ensuring that, you know, gender is always on the agenda of our country.
I love it. And there's a picture of you. And I think it's at a gathering. I want you to tell us a little bit about what you were doing there.
We were launching a radio documentary that we did with young women with physical disabilities and others with mental disabilities. But the documentary was informed by the girls with physical disabilities. They were sharing with us their plight of being abused. They were also sharing with us the plight of having physical disabilities in terms of how they are discriminated against in their communities, how they are discriminated against by their family members. So sharing that, we took those lived realities of them and put them into a radio documentary that we use to educate communities in which they live. We also found that, you know, their parents also have challenges in terms of accepting that they've got a child like this, but also the parents also lack support from the family members, from community members, from their churches in terms of ensuring that they are also able to love their children and also to take care of them. That was when we were launching the documentary.
Goodness. And of course, I say it's beautiful and it's wonderful, but it exists unfortunately because there is such a need for your services. If only we lived in a world where organizations such as Power would not be a necessity because gender equality would be the norm. But alas, it is not in our country.
My dream is to see our country not being one of the sort of the capital of gender-based violence. Hopefully one day we'll see it. If I can't see it with my daughter, perhaps I will see it with my grandchildren one day. But we really need to not give up and continue to fight for gender equality and human rights in the country. I'm a gender activist, but I cannot not feel the pain when someone is poor, when someone is not having food next to me. I cannot be happy when someone does not have a job. I cannot be happy when someone does not have housing. So all those human rights, we all deserve them as South Africans, especially after having fought so much, you know, to dismantle apartheid. Therefore, we have to make sure that as South Africans, we work together to make sure that we make this country better. And one of the biggest hurdles of this country, because in South Africa, it is said that, you know, a girl child is more likely not to get educated, but she is more likely to get raped or abused in her lifetime. So if this is the statistic in our country, all of us have something to do in terms of making sure that we raise our children as equal. We don't raise them as boys and girls. We raise them as human beings. So that even if they are different, even if they have got a different sexual orientation, they don't see that. They see a human being in front of them, not a boy or a girl or a woman or a man, but we see human beings. That is how we are going to respect the human rights of all of us.
I mean, so deep was your passion for equality, justice, and social cohesion that you went back to school, you went and did your master's.
Yes.
Tell me about that process.
And you know, when I finished my degree, I wanted to do a master's, but you know, I was so afraid of research because when you do master's, you have to do a thesis. And I used to see people, you know, going crazy over writing their thesis. And I said, I'm not going to do it. But somehow I was just browsing the internet and I saw this course that is offered by the University of Pretoria. It's called Master of Philosophy in Human Rights and Democratization in Africa. And I applied. And I think it was around September, October, and they kept quiet. And they even said, how are you going to pay for your fees? Because it's very expensive. And in my motivation, I said, because I am working and I know a lot of young people would like this opportunity because I'm 45. And young people would like this opportunity. So therefore, I will pay something towards the course if you allow me to pay monthly because it's expensive. But I would also like a bursary because I know that I'm raising a daughter, so I won't be able to afford all the fees. And I wrote my motivation, off it went. And December 1st, I received a letter that, okay, we have accepted you into the program, but you have an assignment to write before we actually start you with your education, with your master's in January. From the 1st of December to the 10th of December, I was writing an assignment to get into the program. And I remember telling my friends and my family to say, I don't know what I got myself into. But this thing is hard. It's hard. And in December, these people are not thinking clearly. And you submit and they tell you on the 14th of January, you are in class. You are 45. You are a mother. A single mother for that matter.
And the oldest in the class.
And the oldest in the class, and the youngest is like 21 in the class. But great minds from the whole of Africa, Senegal, Nigeria, Burundi, you know, and they are in the class. And they're doing their masters, and they're doing their masters in law. And you are doing, it's a law course, but for us who are non-lawyers, it has to be philosophy.
Yes.
But then we are studying law. For the first time, now you are studying human rights.
So many years later, when you then go through a divorce, was it that same strength and that resilience that got you through that as well?
I think being a social worker, you are taught how to solve problems. You also are prepared to say life has got problems. How are you going to help other people address their problems if you can't address your own problems? I know in our culture we say, if you are a doctor, awukwazi ukuzilapha. But I think social work gives you problem-solving skills. It gives you empathy for other people, but empathy for yourself. What you just need to do is to be open about what is happening in your life now and be able to talk about it openly. People who know me and who are close to me, they know that, you know, if was Nhlanhla, you know Nhlanhla does not have a secret. Something happens now. We are a keeper, we are a keeper. If you have to cry, you cry about it. And then afterwards, upholile emoyeni.
No stress, no high blood.
Yes. So if you have been taught those skills, you also have to apply them to you. And that's how you also give other people power and strength to be able to face, you know, what is happening to them.
Oh, I see how you became a successful social worker because namo uyanglapha ngiloko ngihleli nje la. When we come back, I want us to discuss your future plans, hopes and dreams, what you want to do next. So do you stay with us? That and more in just a moment. Welcome back. You know, 2 is company, 3 is a party. We are now joined by Jeanette Sera. She's Nhlanhla's friend. And, you know, for me, it's so beautiful to see women supporting each other. Nhlanhla, let's start with you. Why is Jeanette so close to your heart?
Your Jeanette is a friend and a sister. A recent example is that in 2015, when I was doing my master's, it required me to be in Kenya for 4 months when I was writing my thesis. I'm a single mom. My daughter is doing her matric. Soon she'll be writing her exams.
My goodness.
And I have to leave South Africa and be in Kenya the 31st of July. So who's going to be at home? Who's going to be taking her to school and supporting her throughout her exams? The only friend I could think of and the only friend who offered to move out of her house and move into my house and leave her daughter and come and take care of my daughter is Jeanette.
There's a picture of you and your daughter there, which is absolutely beautiful. Jeanette, tell me a little bit about why you said, you know what, my friend Hamba, go and be great, go and do you. I'll make sure that everything continues to run in your household. What made you do that?
Look, I met Nhlanhla in 1995 when we were doing our practicals at Power. I'm also a social worker. I think for me, in Nhlanhla, I met a friend. I also met a sister.
Yeah.
She is now my family. My daughter is old, so it was okay for her to stay at home alone. I used to see her at the weekend. So, and I knew that it was important for me to look after her daughter Tsepo so that she can study and not worry about her mom. And also Nhlanhla to study, you know, get her master's and not worry. So it was easy for me because, yeah, like I say, in Nhlanhla, I got a friend, a family. She's my family, you know. My children sometimes joke and say, Luna, you should get married and buy a big house and we live together, you know, yeah. But I think, yeah, for Nhla, sisterhood is important, and yeah, that's what I got from her, yeah.
What's the kind of fun that you guys do? Yeah, jazz.
Tina,
Never just-
Yeah, no, we go out,
Yes.
yeah, we party.
Yeah, good jazz.
We love our drinks.
Yes.
You know, yeah, we have fun. And I mean, we always
relax.
That's important.
Yeah, we have said when we are over 60, when we have retired, hopefully we'll have money and we are going to travel together. And
Yes.
arthritis.
Hello, Gugo
Together,
Tanda. Gugo Tanda.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's so important, I think, because the kind of work that you do, if you don't take time to say, you know what, let's give back to ourselves, let's enjoy life, let's do things, because you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, people's problems, people's frustrations and stress. How important is it just,
it's important to also debrief professionally and also personally in terms of going out and having fun and living your life just like a human being.
Yes.
You know, that is why for me, I'm 48, but mina ngiyahamba ngiyajaiva. So I can't say that, hey, I'm this social worker, I'm this activist manje, kumele all the time in serious gender, what. There are times when hey, nele TV, angifuni ukubona violence, angifuni ukubona in. Now I just want to wash nje soapy and just be happy and forget about having taken on so much, especially throughout the day. So it is important to also take care of yourself because every day you are dealing with trauma.
So true. So true. So now, where to from here? What do you still hope to achieve professionally?
So professionally, I'm going to be leaving Power soon. And I'm going to work for an organization where I'm now going to focus on strengthening communities to be able to respond to gender-based violence by capacitating families. Remember, in order to end violence against women or gender-based violence, it has to start at home. Therefore, if it starts at home where we raise human beings and we take it out to our communities where we strengthen them in terms of how they need to behave and how the attitudes need to change, we need to strengthen our community. So I am excited because it's something that I have not done before. I have done, but at a smaller scale. Now I'm going to be doing it at a bigger scale where I'm working very closely with communities in terms of ending gender-based violence. So I think I am an activist of gender-based violence forever.
And ever.
And ever.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much for joining us, Jeanette Nhlanhla. It's been an absolute pleasure. Next time,
yes.
As a belief. All right. I trust that you've enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Be inspired to go out there and do great things, even in your small area of influence. It can be your family, it can be your friends, your immediate surroundings. Make sure that you shine the light so that all can find their way. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, goodbye. God bless you.
Life is full of challenges. However, all of us have got the inner strength to work on our challenges and come out as victors.